Well, they're on tenterhooks in Manchester. It's the North West Regional Final in a brush with fame later at 2:15. Good afternoon. This is ITV Day.
The fraudster dubbed Mr. Bird Flu, the first bird to die from the virus in Britain, was under his care.
So why was a convicted criminal running a quarantine centre? The government says it wasn't their job to check up on him.
We'll be live at the Pegasus Centre where the parrot died as the European Union debates how to stop the virus spreading. Also this lunchtime.
The government today announces radical plans to give you more control of your school. It might mean a better education for your child, but will it leave some behind?
Teenage boozers, an alcoholic by the age of 12. Sherry answers your questions live on the Lunchtime News.
And abandoned abroad. The British tourists left stranded after Hurricane Wilma. Why were they left to fend for themselves?
In London, hard to swallow why catering firm workers are preparing to go to Downing Street over the Heathrow peace deal.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday's Lunchtime News. He's the man at the centre of Britain's first bird flu case. And today it was revealed that Brett Hammond, who runs a quarantine site in Essex, is a convicted fraudster.
Mr. Hammond trades in rare and exotic birds, but in 1997 he was sentenced to 18 months in jail for not paying his VAT.
A parrot in his care died of the most deadly strain of bird flu, H5N1. So how did he end up responsible for protecting the nation from an outbreak?
The government says it's not their job to check up on the people running quarantine centres for imported animals. Nazanin Moshiri has this report.
This is the Essex Bird Centre at the heart of the row. The UK's first case of bird flu was found here last week. What's worrying MPs today is the discovery that the man who runs this company is a convicted fraudster. Brett Hammond was jailed back in 1997 for evading more than £650,000 worth of VAT on imports of exotic birds. The South American parrot that died in Mr. Hammond's centre contracted the H5N1 form of the virus after it was stored in quarantine with a bird from Taiwan. According to DEFRA, there's no legal requirement to check on people who have licences to run quarantine centres. But animal protection agencies say the government needs to do more.
Pegasus Birds is one of the larger bird importers in the UK, and a lot of these dealers do have quarantine facilities on their premises. In our view, there should be more independence applied to how these quarantine facilities are managed, and we do have concerns about that.
Ministers are expected to approve a blanket ban on importing live birds like these into the EU. This undercover RSPCA footage shows a poacher catching wild parrots in Indonesia. It's a huge business. Thousands of exotic birds are imported into the country every year. There's concern a ban might just drive the trade underground. But many people believe a ban will help protect the country from bird flu that's already killed around 60 people in Asia. DEFRA says there's no need for people in Essex to panic about the discovery at this bird centre. Residents here must be used to health scares. It's a strange coincidence, but right next door is Orchard Farm, where the foot and mouth disease was first spotted in 2001. Nazanin Moshiri, ITV News.
Well, Paul Davis is at the Pegasus Bird Centre in Essex this lunchtime. Paul, any sign of Mr. Hammond?
No, we haven't seen Mr. Hammond yet today. We're told he might be putting in an appearance later in the day, but that's not guaranteed, particularly as there's quite a large group of journalists waiting here with all sorts of questions to put to him, so we'll have to wait to see on that one. I have managed to talk to one of Mr. Hammond's associates here at Pegasus Birds, and he has been at some pains to point out that this is not the centre, the quarantine centre, where the parrot died from the avian flu. He said that although, yes, it is not too far from here and it has links with this company and Mr. Hammond, it's not actually at these premises, and he did want to point that out. Where it is, what conditions animals are kept in, all the other questions that we would like to put. I'm afraid there were no answers on that. Perhaps we'll see Mr. Hammond later in the day and he will have something to say to us. But at the moment, all the company here is saying is that they're very unhappy about all the publicity, and as you can imagine, their trade is selling exotic birds, and their trade is not doing very well at the moment with all this front page publicity.
Oh, indeed, we look forward to hearing more later in the day on ITV News. Paul, thank you.
Our other top stories this lunchtime. George Galloway has fiercely denied fresh claims that he pocketed money from the UN's Oil for Food programme in Iraq. The US Senate claims that the Respect MP lied to their committee earlier this year when he denied any profiteering under Saddam Hussein's regime. The committee says it's discovered £85,000 in Iraqi oil money in the bank account of Mr. Galloway's estranged wife. He says he's completely innocent.
But notwithstanding the travesty of justice that this whole thing has represented, I'm still ready to pack my case now and go to the United States and face a charge of perjury. Now, you can't get much more clear than that. If I lied under oath, I committed a criminal offence. Charge me with it, and let's have our day in court.
And within the last hour, it's been announced that Iraqis have accepted a new constitution for the country. Official results show that 78% voted yes in the referendum. That's over three-quarters. The news comes the day after 20 people were killed in massive bomb blasts targeting foreign workers and journalists in Baghdad. He's described it as the pivotal moment of his government. Today, Tony Blair finally revealed his shake-up of our schools.
The government's white paper on education has been published, promising state schools that match the standards of the country's private ones. So what are the main changes?
Schools will be freed from local control, giving them more individual power over things like the curriculum and admissions.
Families who can't afford to live in a good school's catchment area will have a better chance to fight for a place.
The best schools will be encouraged to expand, making more quality places available for students.
And parents will get more power too, to replace head teachers or even set up new schools if they're unhappy. Our political correspondent Angus Walker has more.
Meeting the parents they want to empower this morning, Tony Blair and his Education Secretary are unveiling a shake-up of the English state school system, this time reversing decades of previous Labour policy and philosophy.
What we can't do is sit back and say a system where 1 in 4 schools are coasting or underperforming is one that's good enough for pupils and parents. I think we've now got to take the decisive next step, which will transform schools so that they have the freedom and flexibility that they need to meet the needs of their pupils and the wishes of parents, and that's what this white paper is about.
But some teaching union leaders despair at what they see as yet another initiative and accuse the government of pandering to the pushy middle classes at the expense of morale within the entire system.
If it constantly argues for consistent reform, then the subliminal message that it's giving to the vast numbers of the electorate is that currently schools are failing.
There's no doubt today's white paper is dividing opinion, even within Labour, the architect of the comprehensive ideal. Some backbench MPs say the aim should be to improve all schools at the same time.
Now I want to do it. I don't want to wait till they compete on getting the money until we have a super league of schools which takes all the young people away, depending on their parents' desire to buy a house, to whip them across in their Mercedes-Benz or whatever it is to that school. I don't want that kind of society.
And that's the fear, that a premiership-style education system could emerge from this white paper, leaving some children in the lower leagues. Angus Walker, ITV News, Westminster.
Well, to find out how the new rules will affect you and your children, our reporter Keir Simmons is at a primary school in Leicester this lunchtime. Keir.
Good afternoon. Well, this is Caldecott School in Leicester, from a less well-off part of the city, and wasn't doing very well but is now much improved. Let me introduce you to 2 of the teaching assistants here who are also 2 parents. They both have 3 boys going to local secondary schools. First of all, Vanessa, your boys go to local schools. Do you think schools are good enough as they are now?
I think they're definitely improving. So I've got one child, obviously, that comes to this school, and the school has really improved over the last couple of years. The secondary school has been brought up off special measures that my 2 older children go to, which is the local stream school.
So it's improving, even under the current system. But there's space for more improvement, do you think?
Definitely.
OK, Ruth, you have 3 boys. Yeah. some of them go to a school 10 miles away, is that right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
10 miles away from your house. How hard was it to get that choice?
It's very hard to have a choice as a parent to get the education what the parent actually wants for the child. It is very hard.
Right, OK, all right, Ruth, thank you very much. So you think there should be more choice. OK, well, let's talk to the headmistress of this school, Hazel. Hazel, what do you think of these proposals? Good idea or not?
I think there's some really exciting elements within the proposals. I'm excited about the autonomy over the curriculum, being able to group with other schools, but we actually do that already. I do have some concerns about choice. How actually is that going to happen?
Because you're a school that's effectively full up.
We are,
so if more parents want to come here, it's tough luck.
It is. I think that's where grouping of schools comes together. We have a lot to share, and I really enjoy doing that within our local community.
Briefly, I mean, more change for teachers. I mean, isn't that going to be hard work?
I think that depends on the leader of the school. It's getting hold of the right change for your school, drilling deep down and really making it work. Monitoring.
Okay, all right, Hazel, thank you very much. Well, of course, much of these proposals come down to a simple question, and that is how to give excellent youngsters the chance to completely excel whilst not leaving any young people behind.
Indeed. Keir, thanks very much.
We've much more to come here on the Lunchtime News, including...
Have some shots and then just drink every single alcohol pop was there, one after the other, and then just go back to the beginning.
From the mouths of babes, how our teenagers are becoming alcoholics before their 16th birthday. We ask one underage drinker, what's going wrong?
And Jemima Khan is here to tell us why we must act now to save the world's children from AIDS. All that in the news round your way when we come back.